Welcome back to the Source Garage. So finally I'm going to be doing an update video on the Cycloshine 2.0 here. I've been getting a lot of emails, questions about when's the stand going to be available. I want to buy one, I want to pre-order one, can I get this option? I'm honestly really surprised at how many emails I've been getting. So this is an update video. I'm going to go through the newsstand, all the upgrades, new features. Still work in progress, believe it or not. I have the absolute latest prototype here. And I'm going to talk about all the work going on behind the scenes basically and setting up the supply chain for getting all the parts here, the issues I'm facing, more testing I've done. So this is going to be kind of a longer video probably. I'm just going to kind of ad-lib here as I go through all this stuff. So I've got a lot to talk about. As I said in a previous video, I want to get everything out there as I go through this whole design process. I like sharing everything that goes behind making this and getting the supply chain together. So I'm open to all feedback, criticism, comments, and at the end I'll go through what the latest design is, what the revisions are, and what the timeline is that I expect to actually be able to sell these. I would hope by the end of September I can actually sell these. I'm waiting on the last couple samples to come in before I can finally have everything lined up and make all my orders. So with that being said, so first I'm going to walk through the newsstand here and all the upgrades to it and all the changes. So everything is powder coated now, and it's aluminum and bolt together. So no more steel, no more welding. Everything is bolted together with all stainless steel fasteners, all aluminum frame, 16 gauge aluminum on the square tubing, on the back mount, the top, the back, bottom, and the front. And these angle pieces here are 1/8 inch aluminum angle. And these rectangular mounts here were actually made with 1 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch aluminum, which will not actually be in the final design because I've come up with something much, much better. I had a little bit of a stroke of ingenuity, unfortunately, after I had these samples powder coated. I actually, I think about 3 weeks ago, thought this was going to be the final design and was hit with some inspiration. So I'll get to that in a minute, what that is too. So everything's powder coated with a tough epoxy. I did a lot of work with more corrosion testing with the different types of paint and clear coat, and I actually have a couple samples here. Let me get this out of the way. So I had some people giving me some feedback that they want just raw aluminum, and aluminum destroys or gets destroyed at least cosmetically by all the stuff in wheel cleaners. So this is just a sample piece. If I can show you all the, hope it's zoomed in and focused there. This thing has just corroded, discolored, just all not good stuff. So this bracket was actually zinc plated, which obviously is not standing up to any of the acids. This was the raw aluminum, so it held up a lot better than the zinc, obviously, but still discoloring, looking grimy. It's really not something I want to sell, or at least would be comfortable doing right now, selling something that's going to get so just destroyed utterly. I tried with some different, as you see, blue paint here with some different styles of paint I used, as well as clear coats. I've tried a couple new clear coats. None of this was holding up as well as I wanted it to all the stuff that you could possibly spray on it. I basically was taking like Meguiar's Wheel Brightener, Sonax, P&S Brake Buster, Meguiar's Wheel Cleaner, Poor Boys World. Anything acidic or with stronger chemicals in it was just absolutely destroying these. So I decided I had to go with something much tougher. So that's where the epoxy powder coating came in. And it is really, really nice. Much better than the paint job I was doing before. It's completely smooth. You can see this black is matte. I have some other colors. So I got this gray matte, blue, and then the red. So those are probably the 4 colors that I got on my poll. People submitted the most and from the feedback too. So black, gray, blue, and red. And then they'll be mix and match between rollers and the frame color. And this epoxy holds up way, way, way better than anything else. I took these rollers off the blue one and I was just letting them practically soak in it. I was spraying them 2 or 3 times a day with all these cleaners, just letting them try and eat through it as much as possible. And I mean, it stained it sort of, but only on the surface, and I could literally just take some water and a paper towel and just wipe it right off. So this epoxy is going to hold up way better to all the corrosiveness of the wheel cleaners. So that's what I'm going with this for. So I have the rollers powder coated and the frame powder coated, and then all the fasteners, everything else will be entirely stainless steel. This brake on the back here, the casters will be, these are zinc right now, but they'll be stainless steel. So everything should be as corrosion resistant as possible. Now, if over several years you let the powder coating sit in acids repeatedly, time and time and time again, I'm not going to make any guarantee that it's not going to eat through it eventually. It's definitely tougher than the paint, but I mean, these acids are designed to strip everything off your wheels, so powder coating is only going to hold up to so much, so I'm not going to make that claim. So I've covered all the parts now. The handle's still here. It will actually be 2 bolts up top here. So right now there's 1 bolt, which I'm stupid to ever think that why would you put 1 bolt here? If you grab it by the side and yank it hard enough, it just twists. So 2 bolts will be up here, not 1. This big hinge back here, so now completely collapsible, and it's held in place by 1 bolt going through the middle here, and it comes out the back there. So you can take the bolt off here and just fold it down. Which one of these did I take the bolt off of? So this blue one here, let me scoot this out of the way. So I don't have the nut on here, so what you can do is just pull the bolt out here, if I can pop it out. Come on. And fold it down. So easier storage. These are super lightweight. This whole thing weighs about 15 pounds, I think, when I stepped on the scale the other day. And most of the weight's in the casters. And I'll have a whole nother conversation here in a second on the casters. But so completely collapsible, fold it back up, put the bolt back in. If you want to relock it in place, it's quick and easy. One thing I'm considering is making the holes through all the frames here slightly larger. So these are 1/4-inch bolts. I made the holes 17/64 to allow some room for the powder coating and some clearance. I may make it even larger just to easily stick it through, and then it will be bolted down on the back here. But so yeah, completely collapsible now for easier storage. Get this back out of the way. See right there. So what else to talk about? So toggle clamp here. So I got feedback from multiple people about the rollers and the resistance of them. So these are completely free spinning, obviously all the way around. So what would you do if you wanted to lock it in place so that you could do some like intense scrubbing or polishing or whatever that you didn't want the wheel rotating? And I came up, let me spin it around this way, with using a toggle clamp. So the reason this is so great is because it is completely adjustable to completely stopping the roller, to applying resistance, to whatever, I'll say, tension you desire, or not being used at all. So it's just a toggle clamp here with this bolt and a rubber stopper on it. So you adjust it with the nuts on here. So you can move it up and down to change how much pressure you're applying into the roller to lock it in place, essentially. What I had to do, getting into more of the engineering and the supply chain part of this, is the bolt that it comes with is actually not long enough to reach the back of the roller here. So what it comes with only comes out to about here. So I have to buy the bolt aftermarket, I have to buy the rubber stopper aftermarket. This has to be bought stainless steel, so it's not corroding. This is zinc plated, it would not stand up. But for proof of concept, I've found a supplier who can give me this in stainless steel. So toggle that up, lock it in place. Now the roller doesn't move at all. Your wheel's completely locked in place. And if you want some mid-level of resistance, just back the nuts off a little bit, and it'll push with less force into it and still spin around. And then you can have some slight amount of friction or whatever you set it to, completely customizable to you. So that's what the toggle clamp is on here for. So let's see, we got the hinge, collapsible. Oh, the back frame here. So obviously you see it's on an angle right now. So there's another hole right here, a little bit further back. So you can either have this in parallel to the back piece or angled forward. And the reason for that is certain, I'll say, tire and rim configurations, the rim may stick out a bit more just due to the design. And in parallel, that rim can lean up back against the roller here. And by leaning this out forward, we're now catching that top arc of the tire, so we're preventing any kind of abrasion on here from happening, because steel on steel here is just going to grind through no matter what you put on there. So angling it out like this helps prevent that from happening. And I'll give a demo here too. I have a 32-inch spare tire off my truck that I'll throw on here to show what it can handle now. So we've got the bracket, the T-handle on top. Oh, there will be the caps on the ends of all the back setup here. So they're missing right now. I didn't want to put them in here just to waste some caps. They will not be on the bottom parts here because they're capped by the angle aluminum. So brake, hinge, top, T-handle. So I think we're down to the casters. So the casters have been an interesting journey trying to figure out what's the best thing to do here. I started out with the zinc plated, realized that's not going to work. I've tried several different sizes of casters between 1 and 5 inches. So like this is some larger casters. These are, were these? I think these were the polyurethane on polyolefin. Looked at TPR, so TPR, PU, PO, PVC, nylon, all different kinds of wheels in different sizes, different widths, trying to figure out what would be best for my application. I really got away from immediately after I tried these. So these are brakes on the side of the wheel here. If you turn these on, so it prevents the wheel from spinning, but now your stand can still wiggle around tons. So I'm like, all right, brakes are definitely not going to work. Let's do total lock. So these are total locking casters. So that means no swivel, no brake. Now, oh, these are not tightened down. I forgot. I just assembled these and I didn't tighten these down all the way. There we go. So I can tighten these down more, but you're going to wiggle the whole table if you're trying to push on it. The stand is not going to move around. And oh, I also helped fix a lot of the wiggle on the back of the frame. So if you remember the steel frame, the back here wobbled a lot because it was in a socket fit essentially. Now that this hinge here is bolted, so you get these 2 bolts on the top here and 2 holding the hinge down, this is not, the whole frame moves with it. It's much, much sturdier, a lot less wiggle, and that's just a feel of use and a quality perception essentially. Yeah, so that covers, oh, so back to the casters. So total lock, not braking, and I've tried without the back one, so even if you lock the front 2, it still wiggles too much because just the swivel. It's really the swivel that's killing it. So I have to have all 4 casters be total lock, and they have to be stainless steel and some kind of corrosion resistant material. So that's what I've been looking for right now. I actually just got some samples in yesterday. So these are stainless steel, total lock, polyolefin on polyurethane is what these are. So you can see the total locking design mechanism here is similar, but different. And these are 2-inch wheels instead of 3-inch wheels. So you can see what the height difference would look like a little bit here. We lose about 1 inch of height there. And I really haven't found a good justification for larger or smaller wheels, because even something like this, you still have a good 3 inches of clearance here. If you wanted to put a catch pan under that, the wheels aren't going to be a problem. So really all I'm doing is adding cost by going with something larger. As long as the wheels can support the weight and move around on the floor smoothly and stand up to corrosion and lock in place, I'm meeting all the requirements I need for a wheel. So I've been really considering going to something smaller here versus larger just to cut back on cost and yeah, really just cost, because these are not cheap at all. So stainless steel, yeah, very expensive versus the zinc. Pretty much 4 times, 3.5, 4 times the cost to go from stainless, or from zinc to stainless. So this is what I'm looking at now. I have some more samples coming in still. I don't like this clamp a ton. It locks extremely well, but it is difficult to push down. So if this is on the table, you really have to push it down to lock it in place. But once you do, it is extremely held in there. So that's what I'm looking at right now. Again, I have more samples coming in before I make a final decision on what I'm going to use. Okay, one other thing I talked about, the rollers. So the powder coating experience with the rollers. So if you don't know how bearings are packed with grease basically, or lubrication of some kind, the powder coating process requires you to heat up the coating to about 400 degrees to cure it properly, and that will fry your bearings. The grease or lubrication will leak out. The balls and the bearing itself expand and contract with the heat. So these actually are surprisingly still all right after being powder coated, but compared to some of the old painted ones I have, they are a bit more grindy and they're not going to have nearly as long a life. So I tried to figure out what could I do to either disassemble the bearings prior to the actual powder coating process, and then reassemble them after. So just do the external roller itself, powder coat it, reassemble it with the bearings. So I cut this one open to see, well, could I take the bearings and pop them out beforehand and then put them back together? Well, no, these are crimped in place, which I kind of saw to begin with, but I had a small hope I could figure it out, how I could take them apart. So the biggest hang up right now is I have a whole bunch of suppliers looking for someone who can sell me powder coated rollers without frying the bearings. So I either need bearings that can take the heat of 400 degrees and still be okay, so it's probably some high performance sealed in precision bearing, which is obviously going to cost more, or someone who can powder coat just the tube and then put everything together. So that's one thing I'm still waiting on. I found some people who can do it, but holy cow, the price. Literally for these 3 rollers, I was quoted, I think it's $80 just for 3 rollers, and that's buying a truckload of them. So I have to find someone who can do that for cheaper or figure something out. Worst case, I've found another person who can get me high performance bearings and rollers, and it'll be less than $80, but it's still going to cost a lot. So I'm trying to find someone who can do it for cheaper than that, because I'm still trying to keep the prices as low as I can reasonably. Still going to be doing the nameplates, so those will still be happening across the front here. You'll be able to custom input those along with your colors, so that's still going to be happening. I got my guy who's doing 3D printing, so that's not going away. The colors, like I said, I'll be a lot more limited in colors to start with until I get enough orders generated that I can start branching out into other colors. So black, blue, red, and gray is what I'm going with for now. Those are the most requested. I will be coming out with a build your own stand video. So you can go on, I'll even link you to where to get all the parts. I'll give you all the specs, all the dimensions, everything I use. I'm going to come out with a video of someone who can build it yourself. And realistically, you can build this entire setup, I'll say not in all stainless because there's some caveats you'll have to deal with, but you could build this whole setup for around $125-ish, I think right now, 125, 150 in just the raw materials. And then now the powder coating, you'd have to figure out on your own. That's obviously additional cost. Getting a stainless steel clamp in one quantity is going to be really expensive. Where you lose the cost efficiency, I say $125. That's probably kind of low because I'm getting more stuff in bulk. The clamps, like I was quoted for clamps initially, like per clamp was $30 just for the stainless steel, because stainless is so expensive. You can buy the zinc plated one for I think $10 or less on Amazon, but if it's going to corrode right away as soon as you spray acid on it. So I'll have a whole nother video coming out with how to build it yourself, what you can or can't go zinc for stainless on in certain places. I've played around with some covers, like bolt covers, so you could potentially use zinc on like these caps or around here to cut down on costs and buy some really cheap covers. I'll link you to where to get the rollers, what kind of rollers I use, the specs I look for, where to get this bracket. So that'll be coming out. I'm trying to be the source garage, source of information for everyone. I'm going to be completely transparent on all this is and have a video on how to build your own, so you don't have to buy one from me if you don't want to, and how to build just parts of it. So that will be coming out. All right, I think I've covered everything on the new stand. Let me check. Sorry, really unprofessional here. Got to look at my notes to make sure I've covered everything. Oh, I forgot. I need to do a demonstration and another really great feature. I've made it so these will fit on your buckets nicely. So I'll be back in just a second. Let me get that set up. All right, so I've got the spare tire off of my truck here, which is obviously disgusting, as you can see, because it's probably never been pulled off of there before. But anyway, so the wheel's 32 inches in diameter from the top to the bottom. It weighs 91 pounds, I believe. So this is a pretty large tire. Just for demo, throw it on here. And I know it's all right, doesn't look anything interesting, but just for demonstration's sake. So the back here, the roller is angled out right now, so I'll spin it around in a second and show you. One thing you're probably seeing is the wheel walking a little bit, so you're seeing it come back and forth here. So I've not been able to actually get it to walk off just by spinning it, because that angle back here is keeping it on the rollers. It'll walk out a little bit and then fade back. The only way that I've been able to get it to come off is by actually pulling it from the back and spinning it and pulling it forward simultaneously. So as long as you're not trying to pull it off, it's not just going to start walking off and fall away from you. So I can sit here and spin this for quite some time, and right now I'm moving my hands all over to try and show you how much wobble there is on this. So this is the worst way ever to try and move the wheel around. So that's worst case scenario. If you're sitting here spinning it properly, this is, let's see, yeah, right about here is where it's going to sit normally. And it's not going to do a whole lot of moving on you. So just for demonstration's sake, so the casters were locked. Let me unlock the casters here. So this is what you can do if you want to move the wheel around the garage. Ta-da. So now let me show you. I use the toggle clamp now, so let me lock these back in place here. So if you really want it quickly, you can just use 2 and it'll stay mostly in place. But if you're going to do any kind of fine polishing or really don't want it to wiggle at all, I definitely recommend locking all 4 in place. Let me check the camera to make sure you can see the toggle clamp there. Okay. So with the toggle clamp here, so right now I think I've got it set up for actually putting all of its weight into it. Yeah, so you can see right now on this black mount here, so it's going to push it forward and then lock it in place here. So now it can't move at all. So if you wanted to do some intense scrubbing, polishing, whatever you wanted to do, it's completely locked in place, and then just back it off. So ta-da, like really easy to lock it in place. The wheel's not going to roll. You got to, if you really crank on it, you can get it to move, but it's not going to go anywhere for just any light work you're doing. So just a demonstration for the toggle clamp. Let me get the wheel off here and show you one last thing you can do with this. Or actually, I got 2 things to show you still. So I also conveniently designed this so that it will fit onto buckets for cleaning and disposing of your waste properly. So if I do this right here, and get the wheels out of the way. Oh, I forgot this bucket's a little wider. So since the sides here are angle aluminum, so it's hollow underneath, so this can sit on here on the bucket. This is a little wobbly on this specific bucket, but it won't wobble side to side. And then let me throw the tire back on here. So now you could clean your tire, it would run down the tire and into the bucket, and this is a big tire so it sticks out a bit further, but you could use this on a bucket. And so this is just one of the transparent food buckets I have. It also works on like a Home Depot or Lowe's bucket, but just another nice feature to have. And then lean it back, pick it off. So I'll just for demonstration, throw it on a Home Depot. So your bucket width will obviously influence how it sits on here, but for the most part it sits pretty stable. And if you keep watching the video, I'll show you how later you could take the back mount off, just set this upright parallel on here and not have to worry about anything moving at all. So now you know it works on a bucket, or put a catch pan under there obviously. And then lastly, because I like to engineer things for, well, in industrial engineering we're taught to, always make it, design it for the worst case scenario. So how sturdy is this really? I got some emails, people saying like, this is bolt together, it's aluminum, it's not the steel, it's not welded together. Is it actually going to be tough enough to handle whatever application people are using it for? So if I can find something to stand onto here. You can stand on this, not very stably because I didn't lock the wheels in place, but you could use this as a scooter if you wanted to. Whee! So I made this so that I would never worry about any wheel you throw on here breaking this. Like I said, you can stand on this without any worry. If I can just get stable here. You can stand on the rollers. See if I can put all my weight on it. So these rollers I have right now may not be the final ones, but they can take a lot of weight. So I can stand on both of these here without worry. So anyway, just want to demo that in case people are worried about how durable is this really. So now you see. And you see my footprints on here, which should wipe off nicely. This powder coating is such a great idea to go to this. Way tougher, way easier to clean. So I think that's it for this section. So now I'll move on to the last design iteration and my revelation with improving brackets. All right, so one quick thing I forgot to cover before is the stand without casters. So I'll be selling the same thing minus the casters because the casters are a big part of the cost, and I can easily see people not using this with wheels. You could just use it set up on a workbench. So this is what that would look like with no wheels. So just bolts go through here, so it sits on the bolt heads on the bottom here. I've debated potentially putting some kind of like very, very thin rubber padding on here to help prevent scratching whatever you're setting it on. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that. Still, someone could easily put their own rubber mat or whatever down. So why should I add additional cost if someone's not interested in it? What was I going to say else beyond this? Oh, yes, the one issue that I've been dealing with right now is this toggle clamp still. So obviously you could see the toggle clamp can't back off very well. So it still can clamp up and actually lock in place. So what has to be done, as far as I've been able to figure out right now, is you do have to manually like actually back this off if you want to sit here without using it. So right now if I lock it up, there's still a gap in here, so I'm sitting on the workbench completely free spinning. Excuse me. If you want to lock it up, then you have to do one of two things. You have to then tilt it back down, move the toggle clamp all the way forward here. So I back this off, move it forward as much as I can, keep going forward. So this will provide some resistance, and it's loose because I can't hand tighten it so much right now. There you go, it's a little better. So this will provide some resistance sitting like this. If you want the full lock, you're going to have to lift it up. You can prop it up with whatever, then adjust it into the right position, and then lock it in place. So a small inconvenience because that's just the functionality of the toggle clamp, is it tilting down and up. And I know someone's probably thinking right now, well, why don't you use a horizontal toggle clamp that doesn't have this lever action motion? Well, that's even harder to find a way to mount to here. It's going to stick out even further in most cases, and doesn't provide the adjustability for the height with this bracket here. It's pretty much locked in one place without using some kind of washers or nut system to adjust it. So yes, I tried horizontal clamps as well. So yeah, this is just the stand without any mounts on it. So now on to the most interesting part of the video, and I think the most revolutionary thing that I've come up with. So the last thing, and the latest variant of the stand, is this. So I just have it disassembled right now because this is the main thing I wanted to show, but just a quick call out again, this will be 2 bolts on the top T-handle here, so it will sit perfectly steady and you can hang it or grab it however you want. But anyway, the brackets are the innovation. So what I did was I saw that the brackets I was using, so these rectangular single hole 2 mounting spots on the front, I mean, it was another small part I had to cut, drill, powder coat. It was more work to assemble. I was trying to think, how could I use the same bracket everywhere, right? Because I got 2 on here, 4 down here. And I started taking the brackets off the back here and said, what if I took this little shape and just stuck it on the mounting frame? Now I'd have 1 mounting point and 2 holes. So this is what you get, is these are actually chopped up current brackets. I'm having custom engineered stainless steel mass produced for me. I'm waiting for those samples to come in still, otherwise I'd have them here to show you what it actually looks like. So please ignore this extra hanging off and just it's not the final version. But the concept still applies here. So what you can see is this one's angled up, this one's laying parallel, so now you don't have to just use it in the angled upward, leaning the tire backward format. You can take the back off, drop down just by pulling out the spring, and then now you have a flat set of rollers in parallel. And oh yeah, sorry, the scuff on here as I dropped this earlier. And these are the old painted rollers, not the powder coated. So yeah, the powder coating will not just rip off like that so easily. Anyway, so now these are parallel. You can set the tire on here. You can use the toggle clamp still just as before to lock them in place, provide complete stopping, some kind of friction, however you want. Have it on wheels, have it just sit flat on the table. So now you can use the stand just like this. Another feature that some people may see as good or bad, but the bracket, since it sticks up above the rollers, when the wheels here, as it's spinning and moving as you're pushing on it, because that's what causes the movement of the wheel on here, it will run into these brackets and stop it from walking any further than whatever direction you're pushing in. So that's just a feature of that. These corners, you may be a little concerned about them rubbing into your wheel though. So in that case, you can take this out, raise it up to the top, and now you have completely parallel rollers all the way above the brackets, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. So now the wheel could walk off if you're pushing it as you're working on it, but you could put the back bracket back on it if that's a concern and you want it in parallel for whatever reason. And the toggle clamp can be adjusted all the way up to still function the same way, applying pressure to the roller. So added a ton of functionality and extra capability by doing these custom design brackets. I can use the same bracket in every location. So these 2 up here, so this one will be mounted with 2 bolts and the 1 hole on top. This one will have 1 bolt and the 2 holes on top here for parallel or angled out. And yes, this holds it plenty strong. I know people are probably gonna think, oh, 1 bolt, why do you need 2? Well, really, this bracket is not taking hardly any of the force, right? So we're leaning back against the roller, all the weight's on the bottom. This bottom one is the one that's actually gonna be taking most of the down force. This one's really just kind of a placeholder, so 1 bolt is perfectly fine. And on the bottom here, I've tried as hard as I could. I mean, you probably just saw in my standing on it video that these are, well, actually I didn't stand on this one, I should probably do that too, but you can stand on this and jump around and it holds up perfectly fine. Nothing moves, shifts on you. And even if it did start to shift or twist because of, I guess I should call it geometry, because of the way the shaft is going through here, if one of these did start to twist, it's gonna catch on the shaft before it would spin off and drop your tire and cause a huge mess. So that's not a worry either. Even in the case of some kind of miracle of a failure, I wouldn't be worried about anything bad happening. So that is the update on the new functionality. So powder coating, all aluminum, all bolt together, makes shipping cheaper. You can assemble it, all stainless steel, completely corrosion resistant, collapsible, more adjustable with the use of the new brackets. T-handle is going to stay with 2 bolts on top. Got the toggle clamp so you can have free spinning, some kind of friction for a tougher time to roll it, or completely lock it in place to completely prevent motion. With casters, without casters, custom colors, well, at least what I have for now. So that's everything I have for now. Like I said, right now, the 2 things I'm still waiting on is locking in a supplier for the rollers themselves and getting them powder coated without frying the bearings, or finding bearings that can take that temperature, and then samples for these stands and some more samples for the casters. So I'm very, very close. I've been spending all my time trying to get this done. That's why I haven't been putting out other videos of projects. I've been prototyping, designing, talking with suppliers, manufacturers. I'm getting someone else to make all the frame now, so I don't have to spend all my time manually doing that anymore, and I can do the other videos, and it obviously costs more to have that done, but I'll take less of a margin so I can go do other things with my time. Anyway, that's where I'm at. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please email me or leave comments on the video. I try and be pretty responsive with my emails about all this stuff. If you want to know when the stand's actually going to be available, on the website at the very bottom, thesourcegarage.com, you can sign up for the, it says Be in the Know, I believe, right now. That is where I will send out the notification to everyone saying the stands will be available for pre-order, which I hope to be able to do in the next couple weeks. I really would like to in the next week if I can, but again, I gotta lock in these suppliers before I can put them up for pre-order. My first batch is probably only gonna be 100, maybe 200 stands, so that's all I can really afford to buy in bulk that I need to make these right now. Oh, and pricing. I haven't said anything about pricing. I'm sure everyone's asking for. So with everything upgrading to stainless steel, powder coating, adding a toggle clamp, custom engineered brackets, the pricing is probably going to be $250 right now. I know that's a lot. The previous stand I was crazy asking for $300 when I thought that was the greatest thing, but this is a lot of engineering work, patent costs, time and money for my own prototyping, the thousands of dollars I put in, and if you don't know how much a patent costs, yeah, it's 10 grand at least to start. But I've put so much effort, time, and money in, that's what it's gonna be, and I'm not even making nearly as much margin as I'd like to be on that, but that's what it's gonna be. And then 20, I think for these custom nameplates, these are gonna be another $25 because I mean, it costs a lot, whether you believe it or not, but 3D printing with such a fine point to get these nice edges and all the color swapping takes a lot of time and a nice 3D printer, so those are going to cost $25 for your own nameplate on the front here. So $275 in total if you want a custom nameplate, or $250 without the nameplate, and you can pick and swap your colors. Oh, without the casters, I think without the casters are going to be $230 or $220, somewhere in there, save a little bit on the casters. And then, what was the other thing I was going to do? I'm not going to be doing a raw aluminum variant yet, if that's something you were waiting for. So everything will be powder coated. Yeah, so with or without casters, with or without the nameplate are your options. Oh, shipping. So great news, because of the aluminum bolt together design now, everything is completely collapsible, fits into one box that's basically about 5 by 5 by 36, and it weighs a total of about 15 pounds. So can save a lot more in shipping costs from an estimate right now. So I'm in Wisconsin. I can ship pretty much anywhere in the US for $25, I think was the estimate right now. Which the previous stand was $50 plus because of the ridiculous shape and the weight. So yeah, 25 bucks on shipping. So full stand, powder coated with a nameplate should be about $300. And I know I'm gonna get a bunch of crap for that, but this is not a Weekend Warrior bargain buy. I'm not pumping these out of a factory in China, all right? That's not what this is. Most of this stuff is gonna be done here in America. It's the rollers, the framing, the brackets will come from China, this will come from China, the toggle clamp, and the casters will be. Because buying American, this will literally be a $500 plus stand, just unfortunately the way it is. I've literally spent more time and talked with more people than you could ever think of about trying to buy American, and it just isn't gonna work for this. So that's the pricing structure, got that out. Again, sign up online at thesourcegarage.com if you wanna be notified when these go for pre-order. Again, email, comment, leave updates, subscribe to the channel. I'll put out another video when these become available. When I get the final parts in, I'll have a video going through the final stand, do a whole bunch of close-up zoom-ins, whatever you want to see what the final variant looks like. And now that this is finally kind of winding down for me, I hope to be able to go back to doing more of the product testing and the other fun stuff, all the things I have planned, like these bottles in here. Like, I got to get to all the testing on these bottles. I've got a million different, I don't even think I've shown this yet, but like sprayers, spray heads. I've got literally 3 different cabinets or 3 drawers here full of different spray heads. So I've got so much testing to do. I've got all these plans in place. That's just one of the dozen other things I have lined up I'm trying to do, but this has taken all my time. So yeah, thanks for watching. Leave me some feedback.